back on that. We're having a mutual admiration society here. We need someone to bring us back to earth and knock us around the lug hole, I think. So that's why we've asked George Christensen on here, an honest, straight shooter. George is joining us from our Brisbane studio. Thanks very much, George.
It's great to be with you, pair of deplorables, because I'm one of them too. In fact, I've got the cap. So
well, we like
so there you go.
We like your deplorable credentials. They're quite impeccable. But, George, we've just been having a conversation, I'm sure you have in your electorate, about Donald Trump's immigration ban on these 7 nations. What's your assessment of it, and do you think that the technique has use here in Australia? That is, you look at where your federal policing bodies are investigating would-be terrorists, and if there's a geographic pattern to their country or culture of origin, then you cut off the flow, their opportunity to come into your country. Do you think this is something Australian policymakers in the Turnbull government can learn from?
To me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I've been saying this for some time, that any country where there is a high level of radicalism, violent extremism or terrorist activity, that we should be looking at banning immigration from that country. Now, people will say, oh, what about instances where, you know, we need some professional there or whatever? There's always exceptions to the rule. But by and large, a ban on just general immigration, humanitarian intake from those countries which have that high level of extremism, I have no problem with that, because the number one thing that there should be in place in your immigration policy is do no harm to your people, national security. It should be first and foremost when we're looking at who's coming into this country. So I have no problem with doing that. I think it actually is a great thing that Donald Trump has done, and it's something that we know from the essential polling that was done a while ago that you know, people even go further than what I do. They say that Muslim immigration should be banned. I don't think that we should have a ban on, you know, people because of their faith, but a ban on specific countries where we know that there's a problem in those countries.
So would you like to see the national security ministers of your government, the Turnbull government, produce an assessment of the country of origin of those Australian residents who are under surveillance or investigation by the Federal Police in ASIO, and then, if it warrants it, if there is a geographic pattern there, to do what Trump has done?
Well, they could look at that. I think that that's something that they probably have already looked at. You know, Mark, they don't broadcast these things when they go and do national security assessments like that. But more so looking in each of those countries to see what the level of radicalisation, I mean, we'd already have that data, what the level of radicalisation is, terrorist activity, how widespread it is amongst the general populace, and you know, even if those people aren't here, making an assessment on that particular country. And you're right with what you said before. You know, we talk about this non-discriminatory immigration policy, and you're right, trying being someone from the Philippines and getting here through a general migration intake, or from Thailand or any other third world country in Southeast Asia, it's more difficult for those people than it is from someone from the USA or the UK or most European nations. So, you know, we do discriminate. It's just not discrimination by race or by religion.
Speaking of religion, George, I mean, I regard you as one of the genuinely interesting figures in the National Parliament. You're a public school boy through and through, grew up in a Catholic family. You put yourself through university studying, of all things, journalism. What do you attribute? I mean, I've got a mate, Paul Katz, who is one of the most hardcore militant left education union TAFE teachers. He's a master mariner who hates your guts, okay? And you are the guy that he most dislikes.
Right.
I want to know, why don't you describe for us what you think the formative influences were in your life that produced the outcome which is sitting in front of us tonight?
Well, shout out to Paul Katz first. Thanks, Paul. Look, my father was certainly influential in some of the political views. He was a big fan of Sir Joe, but you know, I probably caught that by just sitting listening at the dining table to some of the talk that was going on, but really it was meeting another like-minded right-winger, conservative in high school, of all places. A friend of mine who's now sadly deceased, Martin Clibby, who really we struck a friendship up that was based all around ratbag right-wing political views, and we're probably pretty radical in our youth, and that's toned down a little bit, but only a little bit since then. But you know, just reading some of the greats in conservative philosophy, from Russell Kirk through to you know, Mark Stein, more modern figures. You know, my views are always evolving, but at the moment they've found a home in what you call Trumpism. I think it's more of a conservative nationalism, and I think that it's one that's not completely wedded to free market ideology. It's just doing what's in the nation's best interest and what's in the people's best interest.
Can I ask you then, speaking of, you know, finding a home, we've now seen, I think as of today, a fourth Liberal National Party figure in Queensland defecting to One Nation. Pauline Hanson is saying that she's not out there trying to lure them, that they're basically jumping ship. Do you think, in response to this electromagnetic power which Trump and, you know, Brexit have become, can the centre hold, if you like? Will the Liberal National Party be able to cohere as a force as seemingly, you know, these bits peel off?
Well, look, you know, you can't make someone something that they're not, and you know, Malcolm Turnbull and Donald Trump are probably poles apart in terms of style and in substance. So, but have a look at Barnaby Joyce, I would say. I mean, he is a straight shooter, a bloke who calls a spade a bloody shovel, and he gets out there amongst the populace, whether it's in the pubs or in the sheds, in the local RSL, and talks their language. And I think that's the kind of politician that people are looking for, someone that listens, that talks to them rather than at them, and more importantly, someone that's acting. And I think that's what we've got to do. It's pretty simple stuff. Listen to what people are saying, listen to their concerns, don't dismiss them as you know, uneducated or right-wing or populist. I mean, what's populism? Populism it means of the people and not of the elite. What's wrong with that? I thought that's what Australia was all about. But listen to people, talk with them, and act on what they're saying.
Yeah, George, I find talking to people in the outer suburbs where I live, southwest Sydney, that common sense at the moment is a great driver of public opinion, and common sense lies at the heart of Trumpism. So you must find that in your own regional electorate there in central Queensland, but we are seeing some elements of electoral realignment in politics driven by all these factors that we've discussed. What sort of impact do you think it would have if Corey Bernardi was to lead a breakaway Conservative Party? The drumbeat suggests that he's likely to do that. So what do you think the reaction would be inside the Turnbull government, and in terms of public support, the broader ramifications in the electorate?
Well, personally, there'd probably be some sadness to see Corey go out of the Liberal National Coalition, because he is a star player as far as I'm concerned. He's someone whose talent is wasted on the backbench, quite frankly, and you know, in a perfect world, Corey would be on the front bench as far as I'm concerned. But look, I don't know whether he is or he isn't. That's up to Corey to say whether what he's doing and with his future decisions. But obviously, if there was the emergence of another Conservative force, it would make life a little bit more difficult for the government. That's just being being realistic. But you got to remember that Donald Trump didn't come from the Reform Party or somewhere like that. He came from the Republican Party, which just shows that this can happen within one of the mainstream institutional parties. It doesn't, to have this change in philosophy that's guiding the American nation now, it's happened from within the mainstream, not from a minor party. So there's lessons in that for Australia.
George, we on this show have been pretty big critics of the Fairfax media in relation to their treatment of Donald Trump. But I have to say...
They've gone ballistic. Yeah.
I have to say that in their treatment of George Christensen, they have taken a fairly considered view. I think we might even have the shot that virtually broke the internet.
Put a trigger warning up first.
From a very considered piece by Matthew Knott. You have been described as a result of this as a new gay icon of the National Party to potentially replace John Anderson. Tell us about the tat. What is the tattoo for our viewers who can't see it up close? Right.
The tattoo is a Coptic Orthodox icon of the Virgin Mary and Child. I got it because I like it. I've always thought about getting one of those, and I did convert to Orthodoxy, not Coptic Orthodoxy, but Orthodoxy a few years ago. So it was a personal thing. I don't know whether it was smart to go and get that photo, but it's there in the annals of political history now, and there have been a few ribbings about being the new gay icon, but I've got to say that I don't know that if there's members of the gay community out there that are turned on by that, there's probably a doctor they should call.
George, I think it might be just days away before you're included in the teaching materials for the Safe Schools program, which I think would be the greatest worry of the lot. But finally, I want to thank you for coming on the show, but I'm curious about your views on foreign policy. Trump has set out a new doctrine that the United States has got to stop spending so much money draining the wealth of its middle class in trying to solve the problems of the world. If you were foreign minister for a day in the Turnbull government, how would you try and engage with the Trump administration on the important question of ANZUS and foreign policy?
Well, look, I'll tell you about foreign aid. Foreign aid is taking poor people's money in the rich part of the world and giving it to rich people in the poor part of the world. The first thing that I would do is wind back our foreign aid program, divert it to needed measures at home, and just simply keep available contingency funding for disasters within our reach, within our area of influence, where it is in the national interest to ensure that countries like PNG and others in Micronesia and the Asia Pacific don't fall over. So again, this is a common sense thing that many people are out there saying, why are we sending so much money overseas when there's problems at home that can be fixed? So if I was Foreign Minister, even for just 1 minute, that would be the decision I would make.
I've got two final questions for you, George. One, my view is that with the collapse of the Berlin Wall and the former Soviet Union, that the original reason for creation of NATO has now evaporated and its role needs to be fundamentally recast, and Russia needs to be brought back right into the heart of the family of nations. Have you got a view either way?
Yeah, I do. I think that we read Russia and Putin all wrong, actually, in the West. There is a reason why the guy is so popular at home. You're right, NATO's an outfit now looking for a cause, and it's still playing from the 1950s Cold War textbook, picking on Russia as the bad guy. Russia isn't the bad guy. I mean, we had a blow-up over Crimea. Crimea and the eastern part of the Ukraine, they've always been ethnically Russian for a long, long time. I mean, it's only, in fact, the local populace there wanted to be part of Russia. So how do you make a moral argument against what Russia have done in terms of annexing those areas?
George,
I
pause.
think that,
Pause.
Yep.
We've got to go to a break in just 1 second.
Okay,
I'm going
thanks
to
so
give you. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to tell our audience why you and I are sharing a platform to support Kirralie Smith.
It's all about free speech. She's made some comments around halal certification. It's a legitimate argument that we've got to make. And if we can't have the debate because people are going to take you to court, well, free speech is shut down on that issue.
Well, thanks very much, George. We really love the hat in particular. It's an absolute ripper. You'll have to get the Australian franchise for that one from the Trump trademark. So that's fantastic. Thanks for joining us, and good luck with your political year in 2017. And for our viewers, we'll see you.